Crossout is the best game that you've never played. Seriously, this game is probably one of my favorite free-to-play titles right now, and that's saying a lot considering how many good free-to-play games there are at this point in time. At its very core, Crossout is a Mad Max-inspired multiplayer 8v8 vehicle deathmatch in which you build your death machine from the ground up. The building sim is very powerful, allowing you to create vehicles I'm sure the developers never even thought of, and it can even change the multiplayer meta depending on how clever you are with your designs. Now, I personally love building things both in real life and in video games, so combining a building game with one that also requires skill, strategy, and teamwork is truly the perfect game for me. I'm always surprised that more people haven't heard of Crossout, but something I do hear a lot from fans is that they just started playing the game and can't believe how fun it actually is. It's sort of like this little gem of a game that so many people haven't heard of or really haven't tried out, which again strikes me as very odd considering that it's on all platforms and doesn't cost anything to try out. Now, before I go on about why I like this game so much, let's get a few things clear. I've been sponsored by Gaijin, the publishers of Crossout, in the past. This video, however, is not sponsored, and I want to make sure I get my non-sponsored opinion for this game out in the world. Also, I think Crossout is a great game, but certainly not a perfect one. It's got a bit of a rough transition from entry-level play to mid-tier play, usually requiring you to spend a bit of real-world money to boost your power score. That's the catch. Unfortunately, the cosmetic-only purchases weren't an option here, so yes, buying things will allow you to build more elaborate death machines. However, they do balance this by matching you against people with similar power scores. So if you spend a lot of money to get good guns, it's going to match you against other people who are in the same boat. Thankfully, though, they don't implement premium ammo or require you to repair items. Personally, I hate it when free-to-play games implement resource mechanics that force you to spend small amounts of money to maintain gear or buy better ammo that will eventually run out. So once you acquire new parts in Crossout, they're yours and they won't go away unless you scrap them down or sell them on the market. Also, I should mention that I have two different Crossout accounts. One is my personal account where I have had to do all the ranking up and progression on my own, and then more recently I was given a press account which has everything unlocked. I spent enough time playing a normal account to understand how hard it can be to unlock high tier items and ultimately see that the main complaint from people who spend a little bit of money in the game is that it becomes quite difficult to progress onto extremely high power scores without either spending a lot of money or sinking hundreds and hundreds of hours into the game. The silver lining here is that playing at low power tier is still incredibly fun. Finessing your builds or unlocking new structural parts that allows you to build your vehicle in a new way is a really exciting way to progress through the game. Once you start breaking through to medium power score matches, the weapons and tactics start to get pretty crazy. But as long as you're eased into medium power score, you should naturally and slowly learn about all the crazy ways your opponents are going to try and kill you so that you can start building counters into your setup. And really that's the coolest part of Crossout, is complete freedom in how you approach combat. Early on, your basic machine gun mid-range setups, shotgun close range, and cannon long range options are all you have available, but you can then combine these together for hybrid builds and figure out what kind of play styles you really like. Later on, you start seeing more powerful ramming and melee builds coming onto the field. These guys are able to devastate enemies in single passes and get out before taking serious damage. Then of course there's rocket launcher builds, guided missiles, electronic warfare, and more. Again, as you progress up the power score tree, you start to learn about these new weapon types, as they'll start to take you by surprise at first, but you'll again learn how to fight against them. Also, the more you fight, the more you start to understand about weapon mounting and building strategies to hide and protect your weapons from getting shot off in combat. Sometimes the more complicated your build looks, the harder it is for your opponents to actually figure out where your weak points are. Players even do some crazy things like combine their vehicles together to create super war rigs with focused firepower. This actually has to be done in-game after the match starts with two custom designed vehicles that can interlock together. Things get really crazy on the battlefield. Now, aside from the multiplayer 8v8 game modes, they've also been dabbling with battle royale modes, which I tried out. They're not great, but they are there. They also have raids, which are different ways to earn currency and in-game parts and stuff like that, where you fight against waves of NPCs, or perhaps you're on a linear map where you have to chase down convoys. They do give you a lot of options when it comes to combat in this game, so if you're getting bored of just pure multiplayer, you have a few other things to test out. Though I have to say, having tried all the different game modes, really playing 8v8 multiplayer is where the fun is for me. Now, sometimes you might run out of inspiration or ideas for a specific build. That's where Exhibition comes in, which is a really cool way for players to basically upload their crazy or creative builds to a database where any player can look at them instantly and test them out. It even has a voting system, so some of the more unique or popular builds will rise to the top and you'll see them first. This is like one of the coolest features of the game, because you can then see somebody else's build, test it out if you have the parts, or the game will even let you build what you do have available and then kind of fill in what you might not have available to try and complete the build for you. So you can really sort of mess around with other people's ideas and get a good starting place for where you might want to go. One of my favorite things to do in this game is sort of come up with a build that's supposed to fit within a certain power score and achieve a specific goal. This build here, I really wanted to make a good melee build. I've had a lot of bad luck with melee builds that get in close range, do a lot of damage, take out vehicles quickly, and then potentially get out of there. So I decided I wanted to make one with a good stealth ability, cloaking, so I could get in there without people seeing me, do a lot of damage up front, but still had some weapons to potentially take out their guns or their weapons. So while I was doing damage up close, I could try and limit some of the damage they could do back against me. And I did a bunch of trial and error until I came out with this build here, which has got treads on the side. Treads are great because they have a lot of durability, so they don't go down easy, so you maintain your maneuverability, and these small ones allow you to move incredibly fast and really hug the ground, which is super important for a melee build. You need accuracy, the ability to consistently hit your opponent and accurately to do that damage. If you can't drive accurately or move quickly with a melee build, well then it's kind of a failed build. And in fact, even at this later stage of the game, this is one of the first melee builds that I was consistently doing well with, consistently topping my team on the scoreboard and getting 3, even 4 kills a game regularly. And check out this kill here. I've got 42 hit points left, and I sneak on this guy here, take out his maneuverability. His guns can't turn around and hit me, and I'm able to get in there without him doing hardly any damage to me. Get a kill on a guy who has almost full health by just sneaking on him like that. And that's the beauty of a melee build like that. You're not necessarily exchanging a lot of fire, and in a 1v1 combat situation, you can absolutely destroy people. Sadly, I didn't have enough health to try and take on the rest of the team, but it was fun while it lasted. Now, this next build here is one of those things that I've been able to make with the press account because of having just unlimited unlocks, but it is a triple Cyclone build. This is one of those builds where it's like, if power score is not an issue, if you're just trying to make the most powerful vehicle you can in the entire game, this is one of those builds I came up with. And to an extent, it's kind of perfect. It's one of those things that I've messed with so much and finesse that I think I have it into almost a perfect state. The most power you can get to mount a weapon in this game is 16 total. Each Cyclone takes 5 power, so I had enough power left over for a charged radiator, so the Cyclones can all shoot a little bit longer. The firepower on this thing is immense, and I've created the structure underneath this vehicle just strong enough so that it can hold 4 of these treads on the side, which act as a huge amount of armor. So not only is it incredibly well armored, but it's got some insane firepower. It lacks in mobility for sure, and it can get ganked by some aggressive close quarter builds, and occasionally even flipped over. But I gotta say, this is one of my most satisfying high power score builds that I've created, just because it feels like it achieves exactly what it was designed to do, and it required a lot of very specific engineering to fit everything on in the way that I did. So there's just moments in this game where you've finessed and completed an incredibly satisfying design that consistently performs incredibly well, and this is one of them. I have a few other builds that I'm really happy with the ultimate design, but still, even with having almost perfect builds for specific scenarios, the game still inspires me to want to create more and experiment more and see if I can push the envelope further or try out a new play style that I haven't really experimented with much before. And every time, you know, there's failures, there's builds that seem okay, but every now and then you come up with something incredible, and it's just this great satisfying feeling. There's no other game out there like Crossout. This is one of those games that I feel like I've imagined for years before it actually came out, thinking like, wouldn't it be cool if there's like a Mad Max style game where you could customize your vehicle and totally customize all your weapons and like really sort of finesse and tweak things until you get it just right. And that's what Crossout is, and I love it. It's an awesome game, and it kind of blows my mind that there aren't more people playing it than there are right now. But I think this game has kind of unlimited potential. Every time they come out with an expansion or an update that adds new chassis to the game or new weapons, it sort of opens up Pandora's box once again with the possibilities of tweaking or making very specific custom niche builds for a specific task. Ultimately, I've been blown away by how much this game has gripped me and how much fun I've had with it, but I do think that its biggest flaw, or the biggest thing holding it back from mass adoption, is the incredibly expensive or incredibly high time commitment it requires to get to some of the higher power score stuff. Yes, lower power score is really fun to do and I enjoy it a lot, but transitioning from low to medium to high is a massive time commitment and potentially also a massive amount of money required to get there. The grind can be real in this game, and I think that Gaijin could still make really good money if they put more of the cosmetic items behind the monetary requirements and let players progress at a faster pace. That might open up the game to a bigger market. But beyond that, I've just had an absolute blast with this, and I hope that it stays popular for years to come. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing out.